I am Yalte Keaton, also known as Miss Pro Nature in the natural hair community, and I recently passed the South Carolina State Board Theory Examination for Barber Stylist, also known as a Master Hair Care Professional. I am doing this video entitled, What Did It Take for Me to Pass That Theory Exam? What did I do to pass the theory exam? Number one, I got a plan of action. POA, plan of action. In that plan of action, I created a study notebook, a binder. Here's a copy of the binder. I created a binder, study notebook, that included the PSI, CIB, or Candidate Information Bulletin. I put a copy of that in there. This notebook also kept my test. I'll talk more about that as part of the second thing that helped me pass the test. And with the plan of action and creating a notebook, I also broke down the weeks in actionable plans. So in my case, in prepping for the practicum and the theory examination, I had about 15 weeks total. 9 weeks to prepare for the practicum, and then an additional 6 weeks to prepare for the theory. So I broke those down, as you can see here. It's probably the light. I broke those down in actionable steps, actionable plan, and I actually built upon it each week. Example, the practicum, 9 weeks. I had week 1, setup and client prep. Week 2, haircutting. Week 3, setup and new client prep. And with each week, each new procedure that I needed to do within the practical theory, I know I'm talking about practical theory, but this is all part of the study notebook and the action plan that I did. So each week that I had a new subject, I also included the previous week info to continue to reiterate those principles and things that I was learning, and to also put them into action. So where I had a new subject or a new procedure to do for any given week, the previous week's info was added to that. And then after I took and passed the practical examination, I continue on with the same schedule, but it was geared towards the written or the theory portion of the barber styling examination. And that was broken down into 6 weeks, various chapters during that week. But to go back to the practical, so for week 1, I had chapter 5 and 6. Week 2, I had chapter 6 and 7. Week 3, I had 9 and 10, and so on and so forth with that. I guess you say, well, I didn't hear you say anything about chapters 1 through 3 or 4. Well, chapters 1 through 3 is the orientation of history into barbering, right? And then the last 3 chapters, chapter 19, 20, and 21, that's dealing with the business of barbering. So those areas were not focused on within the content outline, which I'll go over that in just a second. However, I did have an outline, a schedule, a plan of action that included a layout for the practicum and the theory. And after the practicum, I continued with the information for the theory portion. So once again, have a plan of action, create a study notebook, write out a weekly plan, something that leads you up to the actual testing date. And then break it down by weeks into actionable plans and build upon that. The CIB gives you a content outline, and that content outline consists of 4 main parts, which comes to 100%, but it's broken down into different percentages to share with you or show you where the material is going to come from. So a quick review of that. I printed it out, I highlighted it, I wrote down the chapters in which I could find the material, and I also wrote out the page numbers. And the reason being, you might say, well, why did you do all that? Well, when I would read the information, if there was something that I need to reference right away, I would go to that chapter and to that page number or those groups of pages so that I can get that information right then and there. And I wasn't fumbling and flipping back and forth from the index to the glossary to find out where the material is located within the book. So I printed out the CIB, I reviewed the content outline, and the content outline consists of 35% scientific concepts. Example here, it says A, infection control and safety practices. Well, that comes out of chapter 4. And it has 4 areas, and within those 4 areas, the second area where it says apply principles of infection control, it has 4 subsections within that. And it says sanitation and cleaning, disinfection, sterilization. And I literally put the page numbers for that. All right. So breaking that down, the next section is implements and equipment. That's 10%. Then you have 40%, which is hair care services. And it has 5 sections and a number of subsections within those 5 sections. And here again, I broke down the chapter, I put the page numbers so that I could reference it right away. And then the final section for the content outline is 15%, and that consists of facial hair and skincare services. So that's what I did with the content outline. I put the chapters, I put the page numbers, and I focused on that as step 2. Get assistance, seek out support. Because I attended school during the pandemic, and there was an extended period of time that we were out because everything was shut down and we went to online. And many of you know this is a hands-on career field. And during school, we do a combination of practicum and theory. Hence, the practicum application portion that we have to do for the exam, and the theory and or written portion that we have to do for the exam. Well, for us with the pandemic, things were shut down. So hands-on was hands-off. I say that to say this. That's another reason why I sought out assistance and support. So within this, I got a tutor who has now become my mentor. So when you hear
his name is Ronnie McKellar. He's a retired U.S. Army
mentor,
Sergeant First Class
actually tutored
and
me
a
first,
barber instructor.
and now they're my mentor. So I got a mentor. My mentor put me on a schedule. He was the one that actually had me create the notebook. So in creating the notebook, I put together a schedule because I said, okay, once I got my letter of approval to take the exam, I set my dates. And after having those dates set, I put a schedule together to coincide with the notebook and the study material that I was being given. So just to do a small recap on the practical application, I did 9 weeks for that. I had a total of 15 weeks to prepare for both the practicum and theory. 9 weeks for the practical, additional 6 weeks for the theory. So we went through the procedures. That's how I broke up the practical examination for me to prep for that. And each week I did a procedure, and I also had 2 chapters that I was reviewing and reading material and testing as well. So the theory portion, my mentor tested me weekly. I received 100 questions once a week, and I had to make an 85 or above. Why so high, y'all? Tell you, well, if you set yourself up for a smaller percentage then you're really painting yourself into a box and you're adding a lot of pressure. And I bring that up because I was told that it'd be about 60 questions, 66 questions on the test. So I got my little math mind rolling, and I'm like, 66 questions? Well, then that only means that I can miss about 10, 15 at the most and still pass. Because if you divide that up, say 100%, 66, that's 1.5 points apiece. And to make at least an 80, not a 70, an 80 or above, you can't miss no more than 15 questions. So he tested me. And his standard for me was to make 85% or higher. And I did. He also used a number of different resources. And what I mean by that, doing the practicum portion, I would work with him anywhere from 2 to 3 times a week, outside of school and whatever else I had to do, working, my work schedule, to practice on my cutting and clipper skills and review the theory information. So with that, I was tested on the material weekly. I was held to a higher standard of 85% or better. And then he used a number of resources with me to create a holistic approach to my learning and training. I also used the Milady's online exam preparation tutorials to assist me with prepping for the practicum and actually the written portion, but I did go through it while I was prepping for the practical aspect as well. Those additional study resources incorporated technology, which means that I could listen to the book on the go. I also used Quizlet, but I quickly found out that Quizlet was something that was made up by other students, whether it was a combination of the test questions that they remembered, or it was a combination of workbook questions, test questions, exam review questions that they put together. So I used that as well. In other words, I used everything that was available to me to make it work. All right? So get assistance, seek out support. I got a mentor that helped me with the practical aspect, that provided me exams weekly for the theory portion. And I was required to make an 85% or better. He used a number of resources in addition to the book and the testing material. And I also used the Milady Standard online preparation software to assist me with prepping for the theory, along with Quizlet. Number 3, put in the work. You must put in the work. Why am I saying this? Well, I had another challenge. You remember for my practical exam, I literally cut my finger down to the white meat. If you don't know about that, watch the practical exam. You'll see that. I cut my finger. Well, this time I had a very bad ear infection that sent me to the ER, and I was out for a couple of days, like literally. I went to the ER that Wednesday. I tested that Monday. I was out on medication and antibiotics to clear it up, was in a lot of pain. And I didn't study for 2.5 days leading up to my exam. I bring that up because I want you to remember, things will happen, whether it's major or minor. However, if you put yourself on a schedule and you work that schedule, regardless of what comes up, you will still be putting in the time and will have put in the time prior to whatever the date is to prepare yourself for the exam. Now, moment of truth, I was a little nervous because anytime leading up to a test or something along those lines, and you don't get all the time you feel you need to get it in, Well, that ear infection took up a lot of my time because I was sleeping. And maybe my body needed the rest. But I was sleeping. So in that, I felt comfortable because I had put in the time utilizing my plan of action, which consisted of my weekly schedule for what I was going to do that week in relation to the chapters or the practical application of getting ready for the exam. Put in the work. That's all I can say. Put in the work. All right. So all you barber stylist candidates, it is my hope that this information has been very helpful to you. I hope that it is useful, something that you can use. If you are someone that is watching the video now and you're just entering school, go ahead and put your study notebook together now. Go ahead and create a schedule of studying in preparation for the exam, because it's going to be here before you know it. And if you get those things in place, if something comes up, no, ain't no if. When something comes up, whether it be major or minor in your life, you're going to have the tools and the resources and the confidence to get through it. Why? Because you have a plan of action. Seek out assistance and support if you need it, but more importantly, put in the work. Put in the work. You put in the work, you will achieve that which you envision. That's all I have. I want to thank you all for tuning in. I greatly, greatly appreciate your support. Don't forget to like, comment, and share the video. If you haven't already watched the videos of the kit is broken down into the 8 sections of the Barber Stylist practical exam. And also, I have a video up of my personal experience with the practical exam. Check that out too. Once again, thank you. I appreciate you. And don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.
I am real Rootz pride. I am real Rootz love. I am real Rootz naturals, naturals. I am real Rootz pride. I am real Rootz love. I am real Rootz naturals, naturals. I am real Rootz pride. I am real Rootz love. I am real Rootz naturals, naturals.